Welcome to the Snap Chatter Podcast, your weekly Marvel Snap podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Logan.
And I'm the other one, Nate Keever.
The other one. Man, Nate, here we are, dude. Snap Chatter. We're starting it. We're here.
Dude. I'm stoked.
Mine too.
I'm so pumped to be here, man. Like, when you pitched this to me, I was like, yo, this was the thing I needed to hear. Like, this was good medicine for me, man.
Yeah, man. And let's be honest, because those of you watching on YouTube or listening to this on audio feeds, you know from listening to both the Reformed Gamers or the Backlog Breakdown, we love us some Marvel Snap, and our co-hosts are probably like, can you not talk about this game so much? So we're like, let's just make a podcast about it. Why not? And we've got some tips to share.
Let's take the 20 minutes that we would spend during our other podcasts, and let's turn that into just an episode of something. Yeah. No, I love the idea. And I think like the other thing too is like you and I both play this, like it's, for me, this is a daily play. Like
same here.
And like at least 45 minutes to an hour a day. Like I run through my dailies, and then sometimes I'm just like, especially when you're hitting that, like the RNG is being good to you and you're getting like all the hits, like, man, I'm like, yeah, I'll just play it for a couple hours sometimes.
Yep. I always play at least a couple rounds during my conference period or my planning period at school if I've got everything kind of scheduled and I'm good to go. And then usually right before bed, when that 9 p.m. reset hits for me in Central Time, it's like, all right, let me check the story. Let me check my challenges. Let's play a couple matches before bed. Let's get after it. Let's get some cubes, So yeah, man, it's a good game. It's a really good game, and so we're excited to finally be here. I know there's some people that are excited to be listening to this, seen people in the Discord and on the Twitter as well. We're recording this on the day that Twitter had like a weird glitch going on where it was like, you've reached your tweet limit for the day, and I'm like, I've only tweeted once, my dude. What do you mean?
I wasn't ignoring people. Trying to log into well, we can talk about this later, but I was actually, I was trying to respond to the tweet that you put out earlier about like the cool plays and everything. Because I when I have like a really neat play, or like when I do something that I'm really like tickled by, I screen cap that. Like, who doesn't?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I've got a couple I'll throw in the thread there and it'll be fun. Like, and it was like, nope. Yeah. It was like, we are unable to post this tweet. And I was like, that's super cool. But whatever,
But hey, there's always another day. There's always another episode of the Snap Chatter Podcast to kind of let y'all know that are checking this out for the first time, kind of what this show is going to be all about. This is a weekly podcast, or that's what we're aiming for as we get these episodes out. Going to try and keep the episodes down to around 30 minutes or so. So about as long as a Snapchat. Well, yeah, as long as a Snapchatter episode is going to be, but it's as long as a Marvel Snap series of matches go. I was going to say as long as a Marvel Snap match, but those are like anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes. So our episodes aren't going to be that short. But yeah, we're going to cover a lot of different things. Our favorite decks, our favorite cards, some tips for new players, some cards that we want to highlight in the Pool 1 and 2 and 3 series, and just kind of go over any kind of news, any kind of changes with the meta, those kind of things, and some of our thoughts. And we're going to get into that a little bit later with some supposed nerfs that are coming.
It's not supposed. I actually was playing before we recorded. Those nerfs are live.
Oh, they're live right now?
They're live right now.
Well, yeah, we got to talk about it this episode then. So apparently Zabu and Surfer just got nerfed. We'll talk about it. But yeah, we're going to cover a lot of different things. And one of the things I want to highlight here about this show is we're doing something a little different. And Java Loyalist over in the TRG Discord kind of said something. I'm like, are you looking at the notes for the show? Because it seems like you are. This one was on the nose. What we're also going to do, because I'm assuming some of you that are watching this or listening to this that are playing Marvel Snap, you see some of these cards, but you're like, I don't really know much about this character, but I like their ability. I'd like to know more. We're going to try and do a lore card is what we're calling it. And a lore card episode every month where you get a little kind of primer as to different characters, and because the current season has MODOK as the card, that's who you're getting here in just a few weeks. So be looking out for that. But yeah, let's kind of get into Marvel Snap though. Let's get into the podcast primer. Nate, how did we get into this game, man? Because I heard about it around the time that it launched, I think last October, and started playing it. People that know me know I notoriously, maybe not notoriously, but I despise mobile games. I don't play them. I don't
Yeah.
like the monetization methods. I hate them. I usually don't stick with them. But I saw this and I was like, I like card games. And this was made by the people who made Hearthstone, supposedly, or at least some of the people that worked on it. I'll give it a go because I really liked Hearthstone. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
This is probably the one mobile game I have wailed so hard on, just dumping Christmas money into it, getting variants and bundles and stuff. But it's a game that, like me and Nate just said, I play it literally every day.
Yeah.
Not to the point where like I ignore other responsibilities or anything, but I do try to get it in for a couple matches each day because it's a game I really enjoy. And so, Nate, what about you, man? What's your history with this game?
Dude, it was one of those things that I had heard a little bit about it before it launched.
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard rumblings about it, like I said, maybe a month before like went official. Like there were some people that I follow on Twitter, or like I listened to a few different podcasts, and there were a couple guys who were like in the early access, and they're like, "Hey, this thing's really cool. This thing's really good. Or this looks
Mm-hmm.
really interesting." And it was like, "Oh, okay." Like, but I'm kind of the same way. Like mobile games, as a general rule, I'm like, nah. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of a hard pass for me. I don't
Yeah.
like this sort of the way that mobile games, as a general rule, like even just the way that they force me to use my phone a lot more than I
Yeah.
think I want to.
Yeah.
So I was real hesitant, and then it was like one of those things, like something popped up, and it was like 2 or 3 days after it initially like launched, it went public or whatever, and I was like, I'm gonna check this thing out, because one of the podcasts I listened to, I want to say Into the Aether, maybe.
Okay.
It seems like it might have been them, which uh, I don't recommend that podcast for everybody, but
Okay.
I like those guys. They're pretty cool. But again, it's not going to be everybody's bag. But the one guy was really into it, and he was actually talking about how, like, hey, the monetization practices on this don't seem that terrible. And then he was explaining
Mm-hmm.
some of the progression and like how you actually get more cards and everything like that. And I was like, Hearthstone, I played a little bit of Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's listened to the breakdown knows that I have talked about, I played Magic the Gathering Arena
Oh
for
man.
a while.
Yeah.
I played Magic the Gathering for years and years and years. I love deck building games. It's like there's that blend of again, sort of like, when it's electronic, it's the RNG, but like that sort of like that randomness meets sort of like the engineering of the deck, where it's like you can build something really cool and you can give yourself a bunch of tools, but it's still a little up to chance. Like, and there's something about that I just really, I like that format. So I checked it
Mm-hmm.
out, dude, and I got through the tutorial, like that first like hour or whatever, and I was just like, nah, I'm in. Like,
Yep.
And obviously, like, kind of went through some ups and downs, like everybody. Like, dude, it's like one of those things. Like, it's like when you get the new shiny, you can't put it down.
Yeah.
And it was like I was probably playing way too much when I shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
But I did sort of like find a much more sustainable sort of rhythm to like. It's
Mm-hmm.
like now I pick it up when I don't have anything else to do.
Right.
Like I'm not trying to be too gross, but it's like it's a great bathroom game.
Yeah. No,
It's
definitely.
like, like a 10-minute break at work, like you can rip off a couple rounds, like lunchtime, like things like that.
Yeah.
Like if you're waiting in the line at Walmart or something like that, like it's become that sort of thing where it's like, well, if I don't want to be alone with my own thoughts in my own head, I'm like, yeah, okay, like let's
Yeah.
rip out a couple hands here, man. So
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about it. And this is kind of going to be a good transition into really the topic for this episode, or at least one of the topics, is what we like about Marvel Snap and some of the things that we would change about Marvel Snap. And one of the things you just mentioned right there is that for me, one of the things that I really enjoy about the game and why I keep coming back to it is just because the matches are so short, which some people might think, oh, well, if they're short, is that bad? And not at all. I think it just kind of keeps this fast pace to
Mhm.
where you're always kind of like thinking, okay, what can I do here? Because for those that maybe are checking this podcast out because, you listen to one of our other podcasts, um, and you've heard us talk about it, you don't really know how it is. Basically, how the game works is you load into a match and you have three different locations or three different lanes, and they're all random. No two match. Well, I should probably shouldn't say that there's no two matches that are similar, because there's been some matches I've gotten the same locations back to back, but you'll get randomized locations that have different perks. Like one is, each turn your cards here drop in one power. Or there's some places like Sanctum Sanctorum where you can't play any cards there at all. So you're forced to kind of, balance between the two. So there's that at play. And then you have your decks that you build. And so it's just constantly kind of challenging you to mentally think, okay, what can I do? How can I play my cards just right with these locations? How can I get the best out of this, or the most out of these cards and locations? And so you're always thinking of like how you can maximize your
Mhm.
gameplay, but it's in matches that take maybe 5 minutes, if the other person is just playing their cards and not hitting the end turn button and just waiting for the timer to go down, which some people tend to do. But it's just nice that they're quick, they're snappy, and then you're on to the next one. It's easy to lose time to this game, but it's also just easy to get a couple matches in and be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go fix dinner now, or do whatever else. Nate, has that been kind of your experience too, and as one of your favorite things?
Dude, I think honestly, the overall design of this game is one of the tightest and best constructed,
Yeah,
like sort of like deck builders I've ever come across.
yeah,
So like just to give people like you only have 12 cards and there's
hmm,
three zones and you have six turns
yep,
and there's no really like resource management. Other deck builders, there's always like weird like resources like Magic. I played a ton of Magic. It was mana, and it was always like
okay,
you always needed to make sure that you had like the good flow, like you were
yeah,
getting the mana that you needed to sort of keep up with creep and everything else. But with this, it's like that every turn, like so, turn one, going to have one energy. Turn two, you're going to get two energy, and it's going to
hmm,
reset every time. And so it's like there are some really great constants. Also, with the three zones, I think one of the things I love the most is that the zones, it's about creating win conditions and basically claiming those zones. And
yeah,
sometimes they are a little different. Like, the bar with no name, it's like one of those zones that it effectively shuts you out most of the time. But like
yeah,
the whole goal is to have the least amount of power there. Um,
yep,
so you know, and yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is like the it's the removal of the like removing life mechanic from it's
hmm,
you aren't attacking the other person's life total or anything like that. It's you are just trying to win the zone, which I think is a really refreshing kind of just take in game design period, because
yeah,
it's not really antagonistic. I mean, it kind of is, especially when you're playing like Green Goblin and Hobgoblin, and
yeah,
there's some cards that are a little like more aggressive,
hmm,
but it really lets you kind of focus on doing what you need to versus responding to the other person or protecting a resource. It's about like,
hmm,
okay, like these are the plays I can make on this. Um, and I just think, like I said, the three zones, the six turns, it's so tight. And it's like in those six turns, you're gonna see most of your cards in that deck. So all of like the cool combos or the cool mechanics that like you're going
yep,
to see those more often than not. Like,
yeah,
and again, like I'm gonna reference like when I talk about this, like Magic the Gathering, like there were so many times like I just need this one card to pop up. I just need this
hmm,
one, and it's like you've got
yeah,
60 cards in that deck. Even if you're playing for that card, like there's a good chance that it's just not going to show.
yeah,
And like with this, you're that's not true. I mean, sometimes the RNG gets you, but
yeah,
like you're never just going like, I just need this one card to show up. That
yeah,
it's like you're usually going to have a, like, as long as you know how to play and you build a decent deck, because
Yeah.
it's a little bit column A, a little bit column B. Um, you're going to do fine. You're going to have a
Yep.
good time.
Yep. And that's kind of one of the things too going into that is that I really like about the game is that it's usually never, maybe at the start when you're first playing the game, you're trying to get used to the cards and their abilities and the difference between ongoing and on reveal. You might kind of get in those situations where you're like, man, I need this one card but I don't have it, but you learn as you continue to play. But it's that thing where the game really rewards experimentation when you're playing with your cards and putting them into different decks and things like that. Like the first time that I remember someone sent a hobgoblin over into one of my lanes, I was like, if I play Odin here, who reactivates on reveal abilities,
Mhm.
is he going to send that hobgoblin back over to the other person? I was like, let me try it. Let me just see. I don't really care about the cubes. Let me just see what it happens, right? I love to experiment in this game. And when I did that and it sent it right back over and the person flipped out and retreated, I was like, oh my gosh. I've run into hobgoblins so many times just in the early stages of this game. I now have a way to defeat people using hobgoblin. This is so cool.
And then
You
when you
know?
find, like, that you can actually do that with Viper as well, like, if that lane's
Yeah.
open and
Yeah.
they drop a goblin in there to, like, stall you or, like, potentially take the lane, and you
Yep.
drop this, like, 2-cost card in there, and all of a sudden it's like, well, that -8 that you were trying to give me, you can have that back now. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Enjoy that. Have fun. It's what's real fun is there's this lane called Shuri's Lab that doubles the power of every card that gets played there. And I love it when people throw a hobgoblin in there who's like a -8, drops over to my side, becomes a -16, drop Viper or Odin, boom, goes right back. And I can't remember if it doubles it or I don't think it doubles it, but
Well,
it's just
if
fun to watch it go back.
I wonder if, like, if you do an Odin because you're triggering it again, you're technically playing the card again, so it might trigger it again.
That's true. I need to try it with Odin because I only tried it with Viper and she just ports it back over. So, but that's the thing. That's one of the things I love about it is just the experimentation. These wacky combos, you never know what you're gonna get. It's like the one I tweeted out earlier today where I played Venom with a 6 power card on Bar Sinister that cloned it all, and then I played Arnim Zola there, and it just became this crazy thing that by the end of the match, I had like a 998 power Venom and then like a 7 or 600 something in the middle lane. And it was nuts. It was
You not
insane.
only broke the game, I think, when you played that, you broke my brain. Like, I
Yeah.
knew that was
Yeah.
possible. Like, I showed you that picture of the time I did that with Black Panther. I did the
Yeah.
Wong, Zola,
Yeah.
Black Panther, and it fired off perfectly. And I had these. Anyways, when you showed me the 900 power Venom, I was like, how?
Yeah, yeah. And for those that are watching on YouTube, I'll try to get screenshots and stuff of the different plays that we have going on screen so you can see it for yourself as we mention it. But yeah, it was nuts. I wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but I saw the fast forward screen for the first time in the game
Oh,
doing
okay.
that because Arnim Zola was constantly destroying things, moving them all around, and it was awesome. It
Well,
was
and then
awesome.
when you explained it to me, I was like, oh no, that is terrible and
Yeah.
beautiful, and I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. But that's the thing that I think that's one of the other things I love so much about it is that like just experiment with the cards that you get. Try to see like okay, would
Mhm.
this work with this? Because as you start doing that, you start thinking of cards as like pairs or combos or you know duos or whatever the other things squads I guess you want to call them that because really the synergies between the different cards if you play them right they pull off some pretty insane moves. It's just it's a wild game, and I think I love it for that. But Nate, is there anything else that you want to mention, just kind of that you love about the game?
I mean, I think, like I said, I really hit it. I think it's so solid in design and
Yeah,
just, it really is like one of those things that it's super easy to pick up. And I don't want to say like it's a lifetime to master it, but
yeah,
it's sort of flexible enough that there's almost always a solution. And I just, sometimes like you'll see these plays. I'll see the, like, I just love the fact that like there are so many like wild plays out there every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how many times like you and I have like shared pictures of deck builds with each other, and like how many times it's like when I showed you the Cat Scratch Fever deck and you're like,
Yeah.
that thing's disgusting, and I'm like, yeah, and I kind of love it. And then you showed me a day in retail, and you
Yeah.
know, and like,
It's just a deck that's totally designed just to ruin someone's day is really all it is.
and but it's like they're also like they're these very flexible solutions to the same question, which is like, how can I, you know, take these 3 lanes, or
Yeah.
get the other, in your case, get the other person to quit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I've done that 3 times today with that deck. That's a fun deck to just kind of blow off some steam. It's always good. I don't even care about winning when I play that deck. I just want to see how much I can annoy the other person.
Oh
Turns out
man.
quite a bit. Turns out quite a bit. But speaking of just solid design, you know, one of the things that's kind of great about Marvel Snap is that the developer, was it Second Dinner, is listening to feedback constantly, and they're always making changes based on the feedback and trying to really make the gameplay experience even better with all that. But one of the things that I don't really like about it, and we're going to get into this topic here, is that that typically comes with nerfs or changes to certain cards that either makes them better or makes them worse. Now, there's been some changes, like when they made Hazmat, they gave her an extra power, so she's a 2 cost, but she's a 2 power card. I'm like, okay, I like that. That's kind of cool. Wish Luke Cage would have got the same treatment, but it is what it is. But then you have other changes where, just like today, as we were talking about it, Zabu and Silver Surfer got. It's kind of weird to call them nerfs to a degree, at least in the case of Silver Surfer, because Silver Surfer originally didn't have any power. He was a 3 cost 0 power card. Now he's a 3 cost 2 power card, and he still buffs your 3 cost cards, but instead of it being a +3 buff, it's a +2 now. So in my mind, that's still pretty powerful, especially when you drop him on Wong. But we'll see how that goes when we play him.
Yeah.
But now you have Zabu, who originally would drop your 4 cost cards down 2 cost, so you could effectively on turn 4 play 2 4 cost cards. So I would always do the Wong Shuri combo to create a 60 bomb Red Skull to drop him in a lane and just make people go like, okay, I'm out then. There's no way I can take this down. But I don't know, man. How do you feel? I guess let's focus on these 2 cards first, just because they're a little unique in that they came with the season pass. And one of the critiques I've seen is that, people said, well, I paid for the season pass and I got this card and now you nerfed it. That kind of feels a little cheap. And I wonder if you feel the same way, because we both have bought the season pass, I think, at least for Zabu. I don't know about Silver Surfer for you.
Yeah, I've bought every season pass since.
Okay.
So Black Panther,
okay,
Surfer, and Zabu, and most recently MODOK.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, frankly, I'm like, get good. You know, how many, and don't get me wrong, I loved the previous iterations of both those cards. Like but I think you and I even talked about it. Like when Zabu first dropped, I was like, dude, I'm scared about like how fast he's making this game. Like the power creep in that. Because 4 cost cards, they're 4 costs for a reason, because they're
powerful.
They're not the most powerful cards in your deck, but some of them are pretty nasty. Like you got White Queen, and you get a 2 cost for 6 power, or 6 power for 2 costs, and you steal a copy of your opponent's most expensive card in their hand. So you get scouting information, 6 power, 2 costs. I'm like, did I love playing that? Absolutely. Did I play the mess out of that? Absolutely. It also made, it's like, and here's the thing, like, if you were playing a Zabu deck, or you're playing against a Zabu deck, and all of a sudden somebody rips out a Zabu in turn 3, like if you don't have like Rogue, you don't have Enchantress, you don't have some sort of answer, you're done. And you're done. Or unless you've got a deck that like you're not worried about like the power, like, Surfer was always like a great counter to that. But frankly, I look at like Surfer's nerf, I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, now you've got 2 power on him. So you can
Yeah.
play him in a lane and he gives you a bit of a bump by
Yeah.
himself. And
Yeah.
then so you're not getting, and like I have a deck that's just built around like manipulating threes. It's like a lockjaw, kind of like, I pop things in and out of that all the time.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
dude, like, part of that is like you put 4 3-cost cards in one lane, you drop a surfer in there and you're getting a potential 12-point bump. That's
Yeah.
massive.
Yep.
And did I love playing that? Yeah, I did it all the
Yep.
time. It was like it's super fun. It's also
Hmm.
like when you're on the other side of that, I'm like, oh man, it just feels
Yeah.
like so bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so I don't think that these are bad nerfs. And when people are saying like, give me my money back, it's not fair, I paid for this. I'm like, maybe instead of just like building these like dial-a-win decks, you ought to like learn how to like, play and be a
Yeah.
little more nuanced and just, because like, I don't know, dude. To me, it's just like, I just look at it, and when those people are doing that, I'm like, just grow up, get good,
Yeah.
like learn,
Well,
adjust.
I was gonna say to add to that, you kind of mentioned creating these. Oh man, what was that term you used for like creating these like
Oh, dial a
like
win.
yeah, because like I remember when I first got Shuri, I was like, oh dude, awesome! I'm gonna put her in with Zabu and Wong, then play Zabu, then play Wong and Shuri on the same lane, drop like a 60 bomb Red Skull, going to be awesome, right? Then use Swordmaster to copy that 60 power on another lane and totally just, wreck my opponent. What I found in doing that in my time, it was fun just to watch the power levels rise. But at the same time, I would watch so many people retreat so fast the moment they see that Red Skull drop,
Yeah.
or to see like a 20 or 40 power Atuma drop in my lane with armor so he doesn't destroy himself. People would just bow out, and I'm like, this isn't as fun anymore. And I get it, because if I saw that too, I would bow out too, because I'm like, I don't have anything to really beat that. It's just not as much fun
Even if you have
because
a Shang-Chi, right, in one of those lanes, what are you going to
yeah.
do with the other one?
Well, and that's the thing too. People would destroy my Red Skull and think that they got me. But if you play Swordmaster or Taskmaster, sorry,
Yeah.
not Swordmaster, he discards the cards. When you play Taskmaster, who copies the power of another card, even if you blow up that Red Skull, he's still going to read that last card because that was the last one played and
Yep.
copy the 60 power. And so I get it. It's kind of like, especially for the collection level I'm at, it seems like not a lot of people have Shuri. And so they don't really have a good counter for that. They don't have Absorbing Man either. If they had Absorbing Man, then boom, you play Shang-Chi, Absorbing Man, double Shang-Chi. You could take it that deck. But
Let's talk about Absorbing Man and Zabu. Like, dude, how many times
yeah,
have you seen the
double Spider-Man.
Zabu, Spider-Man, like turn 5, you see Spider-Man and then Absorbing Man. And then
Yep.
like you effectively have 2 lanes shut down. It's like, that's the game.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
I had someone play that against me once, and it was on a turn 5, I think. And I couldn't play in the other lane because it was a Sanctum Sanctorum where you can't play anything. And the person snapped, and I'm like, it's turn 6. You just locked me out. You snapped. I'm gonna retreat. Enjoy your 1 cube.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's always weird to see a card that you sort of paid for um, get nerfed. Which really, in a way, I think we're just paying for early access to the card now,
Yeah.
because those are always going to get put into the pool for other players. But I think for at least Zabu, I totally get it, because let's be honest, my Zabu Shuri deck is pretty disgusting. It it would definitely guarantee a win or a retreat, but it feels like a little cheap, not leader cheap, but it feels a little cheap to a degree. So I understand that. I think the Silver Surfer one though is perfect, because now he has a little bit of power, and he's still buffing. If you still play Cyclops followed by Brood in one lane, and then play Cyclops, or not Cyclops, play Silver Surfer to buff those cards, you're still getting an insane amount of power in that one
Dude,
lane. But
and the brood example is a great one. Like, how many times you watch people drop brood into a lane, and you're like, oh, I know you got a surfer coming somewhere.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
it's
and
kind
you're
of a
like,
telltale thing.
it's like you're like, well, do I have 9 power to throw at this?
Yeah,
And it's like, dude, that's a lot of power to throw against the lane to
yeah,
just try and fight something. And it's like a lot of
yeah,
times I'll just like, unless I have like I already have a presence there or something like that. Like the worst one is like storm. Next turn you see brood,
hmm,
and you're like, well, you're gonna throw a surfer down. That's 12
yeah,
power. Like
yeah.
that's
And if
almost
not,
impossible to keep up with.
Surfer, you're definitely going to drop a Patriot with most likely a Mystique coming in after that to copy his ability.
Yeah. You're going to see something like dumb like that. And
Yeah,
and not dumb, it's but you know what I'm saying. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're going to see something like that and you're going to go like, yeah. So I'm with you. I actually think both those nerfs make both those cards like a much more balanced play.
yeah, yeah.
Like frankly, I mean, and I don't want to go too far down this. I'm really disappointed that we're not seeing the Iceman, freaking, and Scorpion
Man,
nerfs.
I
Like,
was wondering if this was going to come up because I know you do not like Iceman. I love Iceman, especially paired with Beast. When I pull him back and he becomes a 0 cost card and I get to play him again, I'm one of those people.
dude,
Um,
I don't hate Iceman. I just hate the
okay.
fact that like he's a 1/2, so he's
Hmm.
already kind of like he's got a decent presence for a 1 cost card, right?
Hmm.
And then he's stalling you out, and it's almost like I don't know what they use to like target him because it does not feel random. It's like the card I was going to play, they're like, "Oh no, here, you're not going to play that this turn now."
See,
Um,
this is where I feel like the game hates you a little bit because anytime someone uses Iceman against me, rarely does it hit a card that's gonna like really just screw up my gameplay.
I'm going to like track it sometime, like probably not, but it would be interesting to track it at like how many times it's like out of 100 games with Iceman,
Hmm.
like how many times does it hit the card I was like, "Oh, I was going to play that next. I guess I'm not going to do that anymore."
Yeah,
Um, and the thing with Scorpion, dude, is like he's a 2 cost, 2 power. Okay, that's a decent card. You talked
yeah,
about Hazmat, who's a personal favorite of mine. 2
yeah.
cost, 2 power. Um, the thing is like, and especially when you're like bouncing him back in, like I had somebody, it was like turn one, it was like bar with no name showed up. And they
Hmm.
kept bouncing him in and out, and so they're just ripping my cards. And then
That's yeah,
then the Clone Factory showed up or whatever, and they
yeah,
threw him in that. And I was like, dude, like, go get stuffed.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
problem there is he's
I
ripping
like
your hand. He's giving you
yeah.
-3, -4, -5 power. And now it's spread out across your hand, but like,
It still does some damage.
yeah. It's an outsized, it's the same problem I have with Hobgoblin, right? It's an outsized swing for the power cost. Like
Hmm.
you want Scorpion to do that, make him a 3 cost. Like,
Okay.
because then 3 cost, 2 power. I'm like, that feels balanced, you
Hmm.
know, because he's like, you're taking a little bit of a hit there. Like, and even with
Hmm.
like Hobgoblin's another one that I get mad about. He's a 5 cost for -8 power. The only
Hmm.
way he doesn't work against you is again if you send him back over with like Viper or Odin,
Or
or
eat
if the
them
lane,
with Carnage.
or you eat him with like Carnage, or there are answers to these cards. I'm just saying
Hmm.
like it's an outsized power swing. Like you drop that 5 in, and like if you don't have an answer for Hobgoblin, you're just stuck with -8 power. They paid 5 for an 8 power swing advantage.
Hmm.
That feels really ridiculous to me.
So let me ask you this question then: how do you feel about Modoc then? Because he's a 5 cost 8 power card.
I love him. He's overpowered.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Fair
I
enough.
love him to death.
Hmm.
Like I've been playing a Modoc deck lately,
Hmm.
and especially like when you pair him with like Morbius,
Yeah. Yeah.
Apocalypse.
Hmm.
There's some really like cool synergies he's got. Like, and you're seeing those decks. Like, you're seeing like, oh, like yeah, I can tell you bought the battle pass. Yeah, me too. Yeah, like you're
Yeah.
paid. Like you're seeing a lot of the same synergies like popping up.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I look at him and I'm like, he's too powerful. He should be like a 5/5 for the potential swings he does. Like
Yeah.
maybe a 5/6.
Okay. I could get with that because then you have like Green Goblin's a 3 power or sorry, a 3 cost -3 power. You have Hobgoblin, it would just double that amount. I could get with that. I could get with that because -6 is still a lot.
Yeah.
Still a
Like
lot.
it's still a lot, but it's way more manageable. Like -8 is like,
That's a lane killer.
that's a lane killer. Like,
Yeah.
and it really is. And again, like there are answers to it, but like, I don't know. And I'm not saying that I never play those cards. I'm just saying
Right.
like, I fundamentally think there's a problem with those.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
So then surely, I mean, I think you and I both then rejoiced when we saw Leader get his major nerf, crippling the card. He's kind of useless now. I don't see him at all.
We definitely don't see him as much, but what I will say is I actually don't, because he's a 6 cost 7 power now, and he only
Mhm.
copies to the lane to his right. There's a
Mhm.
way, that Leader can be useful. I think they might have gone like a still, but he's definitely the problem with he was like dialed in to win. Like
Mhm.
almost like every time you'd play somebody playing a Leader deck, like
Yeah.
I would say 9 times out of 10 it would cause the win. And now he feels like he actually like he's not just like, oh, I play Leader, win the game. And
Yeah.
so I don't hate it. And
Mhm.
I'm kind of glad that like I think they went a little hard on him.
A little
You
too
know,
far.
probably what I would, and this is just me, probably what I would have done with Leader is I actually like the power for him, like a 6
Mhm.
7 6 for 6 kind of thing. I would have, that's the right power range, I think. What I would
Mhm.
have done is just said like, he'll copy um like the last card played or something like that.
Like the last
Um,
card that you play or the last card that your opponent played?
the last card that your opponent played, something like that.
Okay.
Um,
But just one card, not the whole sweep if they play like
Not
2
the
or
whole
3.
card. Yeah. So it's like if you've got somebody who's like pulling like, an Infinite, which a card that I love or something like that, he'll he'll
Mhm.
he'll pull it still. Um,
Yeah.
but if you've got somebody who's like doing like some combo plays like I'm want to do, what he'll do is he'll just rip off like, I watched somebody like I have a Surfer deck, and I watched
Mhm.
somebody rip off my last Surfer like move, and it didn't really help them a whole lot, but
Yeah.
it was like I played 3 cards. He got to play all 3 of those cards for free, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And it's like if he would have just got one of those, it might have like I don't know. Like Leader's a tough one.
Yeah. He's a tricky dude. He's a
Yeah,
tricky
but
dude.
like I definitely feel like the nerf was necessary. I mean,
Mhm.
probably honestly, what I would have done is now that I'm thinking about it, I probably would have made him a 0, a 6-0, so
Oh, a
that
6 cost 0 power?
he does absolutely nothing to add to power.
Okay. Okay.
And so like basically you're throwing him down a lane just to copy what your opponent did.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
man.
feel like that might have made him.
A little bit better, yeah. Who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows?
who knows?
But that's one thing. We'll definitely get more into discussing like who we think ought to get nerfed next or who we think needs a buff in later episodes. But as we kind of start winding down the episode, I said we're going to be 30 minutes, but we're not going to be 30 minutes. Let's spend a little bit of time, maybe not a little bit of time, but or maybe a little bit of time. I don't know. Words are hard. Because I know there's some people that are listening to this podcast that just started playing. So you're in pool 1 or you're in pool 2. I know the official terms are like series 1, series 2, series 3, but I got stuck in it when we were calling them pools. Back in my day, we called them pools,
Back
not
in
series.
my day.
So Nate, let's kind of share with the listeners a card that we like out of pool. I think I picked pool 2 is what I picked, but man, let's just talk about one of our favorite card that we have real quick and kind of why.
My favorite card out of the sort of the base level pools, right, is Devil Dino. Like I feel like I
Yes.
have to start out with this.
Yes.
Like Devil Dino is my dude. He is best boy.
Yep.
Like that +2 for every card in your hand. He's got great synergy with like ramp decks and all sorts of stuff. Like he's just like every deck that I can fit him into, I do it. Just because he can get big and gnarly and he can hang with the big boys, and like he's fun to like. You can like clone him with Zola. Um, you can just
Yep.
you can get doubles with Moon Girl and make him beefy. That like he's just fun. Like he's just like a fun card.
Yep.
Devil Dino all day. Like and like you can make a really competitive Devil Dino deck out of the pools, out of the first 3 pool cards.
Yeah.
So
100%. So you're saying you definitely bought that Devil Dinosaur bundle a couple weeks ago.
You know I did, man. And
we both did.
I actually upgraded that variant to the inked version.
Oh, you're gonna have to send me a picture of that.
Oh yeah,
I
for
still
sure.
have yet to get it. I still have yet to get an inked variant, man.
He was my first one, and so far he's my only one. But
I bet he's gorgeous. Oh man, yeah. I need to get me some of those. Mine then is this. So when I first got this card, this is a pool 2 card, one that you'll get. Let me double check these levels here. When you get to collection level 222 and beyond, you'll be in like pool 2. When I first got this card, I didn't really care for it all that much, just because Killmonger was kind of getting played a lot, so he would wipe it out really fast. But when I start synergizing it with armor to protect him, Sunspot is a beefy card. He's in almost every single one of my decks now, because what makes him so good is that let's say you play Sunspot turn 1, turn 2 rolls around, cards in your hand, you can't play them yet. You're not going to be playing anything till maybe turn 3, turn 4. You hit the end turn, the unspent energy goes to power him up, so he becomes a 3 power card on turn 2. Let's say you're going to play, you don't play anything on turn 3. Add 3 more energy to him. He has so much value just in that one card that, man, he can help you win a lane depending on where you play him.
If you're playing him with an Infinite deck too, like you know, like he can, like you can play Infinite, you can skip turn 5, and that's not wasted power. He sucks that up, gives him that 5 power bump, dude. Like Sunspot is like my go-to 1-drop, go-to.
Yep.
So
absolutely. He's a great card. One of my favorite things, I have him in a deck where I'll play him, then armor, kind of skip some turns to beef him up, then play magic to get an extra turn, and then don't play anything so I can play She-Hulk and Infinite on a couple lanes. And man, it's not a guaranteed game winner, but I mean, it's still pretty, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat.
No, that's
Sunspot, man.
That's a sick combo. Yeah. Infinite's a great one. I'll probably bring him up at some point in time. Absolutely. Like he's a good time. So
yeah, because we got to talk about some of our favorite 6-cost cards, man.
All right, man.
I'll definitely gush about my buddy Ultron. Love Ultron. But yeah, so anyway, Snapchatters, thank you for checking out this episode of the first Snap Chatter podcast. You can follow us on a couple different places. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the videos with some of your fellow Marvel Snap players, those that you play battle mode against, which we got to talk about that at some point. But yeah, follow us on Twitter. That's the other one. SnapChatterPod, twitter.com/SnapChatterPod. That's where we're at over there. And really, I think SnapChatterPod is going to be the thing where you can find us everywhere on those places. Be sure to leave us nice reviews on the podcast apps that you use or on YouTube. Again, like the video, subscribe, do all that jazz. Nate, do we want to tell people where they can follow us?
I'm not scared.
Fair enough.
If you pretty much anywhere you look, I'm Nate _McKeever on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm just Nate McKeever. Like all the things, pretty much Nate _McKeever. So to be honest, I'm not super present on social media, but like, hey, I try to interact with people when I can.
Yeah, man.
So.
Yeah, man. Well, my name is Logan. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheLogan. It is protected because I'm trying to use social media less. But if you follow me or want to DM me or talk about some Snap stuff, let me know. You can also find me on Marvel Snap. I'm the Theo Logan. You'll probably see me there. I have a what is my profile picture? My avatar is a Zabu now because I hit level 80 last season, so I got that avatar. So I'm like, I'm gonna rock this for a little bit before I go back to my Devil Dinosaur one that I paid for.
That's the good stuff, buddy.
It's the good stuff right there. With that being said, y'all, thank you for listening to this episode of Snap Chatter. And y'all keep snapping. We'll see you in the next episode.